Hi everyone, welcome. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today I'm going to be showing you a few more June Club kits from Spellbinders. Now I'm going to be making up a bunch of cards using these, and the designs are all very different. So let me show you what the club kits look like this month. Let's start with the clear stamp and die of the month. You can get this without the die if you'd prefer for a lower price point. And this one is called Paisley Bouquet. The dies cut out most everything in this stamp set, and then the sentiments are really cute. So you get a hello, and then you get one that says, "Beyond grateful, sending happy thoughts your way," and I really like this last one. It says, "Hope this card finds you well." And they're all very different fonts, which is fun. Next, I have the small die of the month, and this one is called Stylized Border Trio. When I first saw this, I wasn't sure what all of these would do, but they make the most beautiful lacy cards, and I'll show you that on my third card that I'm going to be creating in this video. But it cuts out these lacy pieces, and then it also cuts out the borders, so you can make some really pretty borders and edges on your cards. But I'll get into that in just a few minutes. And I'll cut out every single piece for you so you can see what they look like. They're really quite simple. You get a bunch, and it can look overwhelming, but this was a really fun set, and it's a great one to have in your stash. It cuts out the edges on both sides of these larger pieces as well. So if you like creating lacy, delicate cards with some very unique borders, this set is for you. Now let's take a look at the large die of the month. There are a lot of dies in this set, and this one is called Paisley Dreams. It coordinates perfectly with the clear stamp and die of the month. And you get all of these pretty paisley pieces. You get a hello die and some florals, and it just makes up the most delicate, ornate cards. So this one was a lot of fun to play with. And then last, I have the embossing folder of the month. This one is called Botanical Diamond. Let me pull this out of the cellophane and give you a close-up look at this. So again, they're a great size. They make up any size card you'd like. Here's a close-up look. And this one is very unique. I've never seen anything like this one on the market. Okay, so let's get into the cards. I'm going to start with the clear stamp and die of the month. And I'm going to stamp out my own pattern paper using the 3 different Paisley stamps. I'm going to make a cowboy handkerchief pattern. I looked up Paisley on the internet just to get some ideas and some color schemes. And I was reminded of the really cute, usually red and blue handkerchief patterns. This is a piece of phone booth cardstock. It's a newer cardstock to the Spellbinders line of cardstock. I'm using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I used my anti-static powder first so that I can heat emboss this with some clear embossing powder. Once I've stamped out all of the Paisley stamps that will fit, I pulled out a little polka dot stamp from my stash and just filled in some of the blank spaces. This makes it look a little more airy. So let's pour over the clear embossing powder. I'm going to use my tweezers to help me hold this, and we'll completely coat this with the powder. Now it looks white going on, but of course it will dry shiny and black, or not dry but melt shiny and black. So let's melt this. I did let my heat tool warm up for a minute, and you can just see how pretty it is once it melts. I'm taking it kind of slow so that I don't warp the panel too much. You could, of course, skip this step if you want to. You just have to put the panel aside to dry a little bit because the VersaFine Onyx Black ink takes a little more time to dry. So I like to heat emboss it just to lock in the pattern and prevent it from smearing. I also did this on a piece of Cosmic Sky cardstock. I stamped out the pattern with Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink, and I used some white embossing powder for this panel. But I don't know which panel I like better. They're both really pretty. There's also a lot of beautiful examples on the Spellbinders website of cards created using this stamp set. Now that the panel is done, I'm going to pull out both panels. I'm going to add a little more detail using a white Versamark pen on the red panel, and I already used some black gel pen on the blue panel. This just helps make it a little bit brighter and more true to the look of these cowboy handkerchiefs. I cut both of these panels down using the hem stitch rectangle dies, and I'm going to add a little detail to the front of these. I stamped and embossed another image from the stamp set, and I'm going to add a button on top of this. I found these buttons in my stash. I'm using some pink and white baker's twine just to sew the button onto this little star piece. I used my piercing tool, my all-in-one tool, to pierce 2 holes in it. And then I'm just going to pull the baker's twine through and tie a bow. This is such a fun pink sparkly button. I think I got this from a Pink and Main card kit. So let's trim this baker's twine down and tie a bow. I'm also using a pink panel of cardstock. It's called Pink Sand, in between the 2 red pieces. So let's glue down the pink sand. And next, the pattern paper. I use that hem stitch die a lot. It just kind of hangs out at the side of my desk. I'm using the sentiment that says, "Sending happy thoughts your way," and I cut it out using the coordinating die. I popped up the little star piece with some foam squares, as well as the sentiment. And then I can go ahead and attach this to the card base. I think this red card is my favorite of the 2. But it just looks so bold and summery to me. I'm using liquid glue to attach the panel. And then I'm going to give you a close-up look at this card. Kind of different, but I really like how it turned out. And then let me show you a close-up look of the blue card next. I used the largest hem stitch die on this and just glued it straight onto the white card base. I found a cute white button in my stash for this card. Now on to card number 3, and let me show you all of the frilly pieces that these dies cut out. So this one's the largest. The next one is actually the smallest, and it's a layering piece. So you get the flower piece, and then I cut it out. The second piece I cut out with green, and it looks like this. And then these 2 pieces layer up so they look like a little row of flowers. Isn't that pretty? And has beautiful etched detail on that one. Okay, here is the 3rd one. And this is the piece I'm going to be using on this card. I cut out a bunch of them already using some alabaster cream cardstock. And I will be cutting a border on this with this particular die right here. So I have some blue cardstock. This cardstock is called Waterfall. It's just a beautiful pale teal color. I'm going to show you how I cut out, or I pushed out all of the inner bits to these die cuts. I held up 2 of them together just to save time. You could possibly put even 3 or 4 together. And I just used my all-in-one tool to pop out the inner pieces. I'm using a little bit of glue to connect these just around the circles on the top of this die. And then I can just line those up. It's very easy to line up. And then I can just hold that in place for a second while it attaches. And I'm going to add about 6 pieces together. And it's so beautiful, you can't even hardly tell where it attaches. It looks like all one piece when you're done. I'm putting this together on a mat just to protect my work mat from the glue. Okay, let's add 1 more piece. And then let me show you what it looks like on this blue paper. Isn't it pretty? I'm going to cut this blue paper down using the edge die that coordinates with this lacy piece. I added glue over this whole piece but I'm just showing you a little bit because it did take some time just to add little dots behind this. And then I can attach it to the blue paper. I decide to use the coordinating die at the top of this piece to cut out a border at the top as well. But let's go ahead and trim this down. I'm sorry I'm off camera here, but I have to go kind of slow and make sure I don't cut into the cardstock. Okay, so let's cut the top of this off using the other die. I'll just hold it in place with a piece of the yellow tape and run it through the die cut machine. And here it is ready to put on the front of my card. I cut out a little piece of teal topaz cardstock that I'm going to put at the top of my panel. I'll glue this piece down first. Then let me show you the die I'm using for the sentiment. This is the die of the month from September of last year, and I'm using the little die that says hello as well as the shadow piece. I'll glue those together. I decided to pop up my lacy panel with some foam strips. I'll put the hello sentiment at the bottom just to make sure I give it enough room once I put this panel down. And I can just press that into place. The sentiment I'm going to glue down flat. I die cut a few pieces or flowers from the Be Bold Blooms set. I think I use this in about every video. I love this set. And I'm going to add a little bit of teal ink on top of it, just to make it stand out from the lace. I cut another flower out with teal topaz. And then the leaves are from Rainforest cardstock. I'll pop up the largest flower with some foam squares. And then the smaller flowers I'm going to glue down flat. Now I can attach this to another white card base, top folding. I added a few teal gems. And here is a close-up look. Isn't that lace just stunning? It's a really fun die set. I didn't know I would love it as much as I did. Moving on to card number 4, we're going to use the large die of the month called Paisley Dreams. So I'm going to stamp out the sentiment that says Beyond Grateful on one of my die cut pieces. This is a piece of peridot green cardstock. Isn't that cute? Just fit perfectly on this little piece. I cut most everything out with white cardstock, and I'm gluing it onto a piece of, let's see, it's the darkest green. It's called Blue Spruce. The color scheme for this card came from inspiration from Google as well. I just looked up Paisley and then clicked on images. It came up with lots of beautiful different colors, as well as a lot of pictures of Brad Paisley. So I'm using whites, greens, and blues with a little pop of pink. So this largest die cut is going kind of at the bottom of my card. This is a layering die set, so there's a lot of layers that you can add on top of this. I'll put the flowers at the side. And then there are these cute little corner pieces, and I cut those out with the pink sand, and I'll attach those. I'm going to add 2 more paisley pieces, or whatever you call them, at the top. So I have a little trio of paisley going on this card. This sentiment will be at the top. I popped it up with a foam strip. And then let's layer up these paisley pieces. I stamped these and heat embossed them using the clear stamp and die of the month. I'm going to add another green bracket or whatever this piece is at the bottom, just to make it balanced. And then I'm going to add the sentiment that says hello on top of this. I layered this up twice, so it's kind of substantial. I added some gems, and here is a close-up look at this card. Isn't that so much fun? I love this paisley theme going on. Okay, last card, we're going to play with the embossing folder of the month. And again, this one is called Botanical Diamond. Let's emboss a piece of pink sand cardstock. Let me take this off camera and run that through the machine. And here it is. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but I'm going to hold it up really close so hopefully you can see this beautiful pattern. I'm going to bring out the pattern a little bit more on this card using some pink embossing powder. So let's put a piece of type paper down to protect the work surface. I'll add some anti-static powder first, and then I'm using some Versamark ink and a flat blending tool. And I'm just trying to catch the raised edges of this pattern. I'm trying to keep the Versamark ink just on the ridges because I don't want any of the powder going inside these designs. It still does a little bit, but that's okay. So let's pour over this sparkle pink embossing powder. I think I got this in a card kit a couple of years ago. I'll link to it if I can find it or something similar, but it has glitter in it. It's so pretty. I think I got this from Hero Arts, actually. So let's melt this powder. It looks very pretty on this pink sand cardstock. And it really helps to bring out the pattern on this embossed paper. Now that this has melted, I'm going to cut this down so it's a little bit smaller than an A2 sized card. I cut out some flowers using the large die of the month, and I'm just going to put 3 of these on the front of the card. So let's layer these up. I love pinks and oranges together with a little touch of white. And then for the little dot centers, I cut it out with some hot pink cardstock. And then we can attach these to the leaves or the stems. The stems kind of sit on top of these flowers, so I'm going to add a little bit of glue just to the bottoms of these. And just overlap that a little bit. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so let's stop here and stamp out the sentiment. I'm going to use the one that says, "Hope this card finds you well," with some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I'm going to cut this out into a strip, pop it up with some foam squares, and attach a black and white baker's twine bow on the side. I'm using some liquid glue to attach this to the card base. And again, it's going to have a white matting around it. We'll attach the sentiment next. And then the flowers, I'm going to glue down flat. I like how they kind of create a little circle at the top of this card. So I'm just adding little dots of glue on the backs of these. And here is the finished card. Thanks for joining me for this close-up look at some of the June club kits from Spellbinders. I'll have the links listed in the description box if you're interested in checking out some of these. And if you are already subscribed to some of these club kits, I hope that I gave you some fun inspiration. Have a wonderful day, my crafty friends. Bye!